I'm very hopeful leading up to COP26 that there are communications that are open between the United States and China. And the reason that's so important is we need to put this in a little bit of historic context. The United States and China are the two largest polluters. And the Paris Accords that were signed back in 2015 really required the United States and China to lead on overhauling carbon emissions for the rest of the world. And now leading up to the 6-year sort of check-in as to how countries are doing since they all signed the Paris Accords to reduce their carbon emissions, known as nationally determined contributions, it's so critical that these two countries showcase leadership and diplomatic relations and that they are working together, because this couldn't be a more critical time following a most recent report that came out just weeks ago saying that not only were the Paris Accords back in 2015 saying that we couldn't get past 2 degrees warming by the end of the century, actually that wasn't strict enough. We can't get past 1.5 degrees. So talk about needing these two superpowers to cooperate and really meet these goals that were set forward 6 years ago and beyond.
And we've certainly seen some ups and downs in more recent years. Earlier this year, at the beginning of the Biden administration, climate change was touted as an area of great cooperation between these two countries. So where do you think that stands now? You say you're optimistic given the current state of relations.
Well, John Kerry was not able to talk about anything aside from this particular issue, which is what are the two countries doing to showcase domestically that their carbon emissions are being reduced to the point of reaching net neutrality. So for the United States, the promise is 2050, with the entire power sector becoming carbon free by 2035. And China also is saying by 2060, it will achieve net neutrality. And so the blueprint for how these two countries were going to be able to meet those goals is what these two special envoys on climate have been discussing. And that's really what the key point is here, is if diplomatic relations are being taken forward on this, perhaps it will open up doors for further conversations on other issues, but there really isn't a bigger issue than China and the United States leading on reducing carbon emissions globally.
What areas within climate do you think that these two can work together and lead, as you mentioned? Both sides right now, both countries experiencing the effects of climate change. We're seeing the effects of this hurricane that came through the United States, wildfires out in the West. In China, they've also seen floods.
Right, and that's it. You've listed it out, and there's so many more than that, and they're increasing in frequency and probability. And so there's 3 things that really need to happen. One is we need to mitigate against worse outcomes coming from the planet warming. We need to adapt to the reality of these events occurring more frequently. And we need to help finance countries that can't necessarily afford this transition, but that is crucial to the collective benefit of our planet. And so that is really the fundamentals of this upcoming COP26 in Glasgow. And so we need to see these countries really make some tough pledges. Primarily no more coal-powered plants. That cannot be allowed domestically or globally. And so that's really what the world is waiting and watching to see, is that can these pledges be made and will they be honored by the time we reach COP26?